Hi, welcome to my video on factoring the trinomial x squared plus bx plus c. This is part 4, and in this video I'm going to remove GCF first. I have to remove the GCF first in order to factor the trinomial. If there's a GCF, remove it. Okay, here we go. Let's do a little bit of multiplication here, just to do a bit of review. If I were to multiply 2 times x plus 3 times x plus 1, I like to multiply my two binomials first. First, x squared, x times 1, 1x, 3 times x, 3x, and 3 times 1, 3. And when you add them, you get 1 plus 3 is 4. After you multiply these 2 by FOIL, first, outside, inside, last, then you should always simplify this, because if you simplify them, you have less terms to deal with later on as you continue. Then I multiply 2 by x squared, 2 by 4x to give me 8x, and 2 times 3 is 6. Again, b, I multiply, that's me, I multiply my binomials first, that's on the right side, and do my x after. There's a problem here. You got to be careful. If you multiply with x first, which you can, you only multiply the x by these two. And then you take that result and multiply by x plus 2. So this is why I multiply the two binomials first, and then the x after. Just something I do since I've been a student in grade 8, 9 coming through. So first terms, x times x, x squared. Outside, plus 2x. Inside, minus 4x. Last, minus 8. Simplify that, and I have x squared minus 2x minus 8. Now I'll multiply by the monomial. So x times x squared, x cubed. X times negative 2x, negative 2x squared. X times negative 8, negative 8x. So if you're consistent, and this is what I learned, be consistent in what you do, and you're okay. Leave the negative alone. Multiply the two binomials. First, x squared. Outside, negative 3x. Inside, plus 6x. And minus 18. And you simplify that, so the like terms here are negative 3 and 6 is plus 3x minus 18. So this is the negative of this. So the negative of this is you change the sign. So that's negative x squared minus 3x plus 18. Or you could, if you wish, put a 1 right there. Pretend that's a negative 1 times that. So if you put a 1 in front of a negative, if you put that 1 right there, then treat it as a negative 1 times this trinomial. That's the same as if you now doing it as 2 times this trinomial. So negative 1 times negative 1. So when you multiply each of these by negative 1, all the signs will change. Negative 1 times positive, negative. Negative 1 times positive, negative. Negative times a negative, positive. Okay. Let's go. First, x squared. Outside, negative x. Inside, negative 2x. Last, 2. Simplify before you go any further, and that gives me x squared. Negative 1, negative, that's a negative 1 understood. Negative 1, negative 2 is negative 3 plus 2. Now we multiply each term on the inside by this monomial. So that's a negative 3x cubed. Remember, that's a 1 there. So you add. And negative times negative is positive 9. And that's a 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. When you multiply, you add your excuse me, you add your exponents. And that's a negative 6x when you multiply 3x, negative 3x by 2. So I practiced that multiplication because now I'm going to show you about reversing it. Here we go. So what would happen if you reverse it? Well, the first rule in factoring is remove the GCF first, if possible. Remove the GCF first. So when you're factoring, you got to have descending order in order to factor, but you also have to make sure that if there's a GCF, take it out before you start to do any factoring. The GCF first. So let's look at A. The 3, the smallest number here is a 3. So is 3 a factor of 9? Yes. Is 3 a factor of 6? Yes. So let's remove the 3 by taking it out. 3x squared divided by 3 is x squared. 9x divided by 3 is plus 3x. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So notice, multiply back. 3 times x squared, perfect. 3 times 3x, perfect. 3 times 2, perfect. Now that we have the GCF moved out, can we factor this? So rather, if you're on a test or somewhere, you can do this over on the side and say, okay, I'll just put this out before I write down, because sometimes this might not factor further. And we got to check to see if it's going to factor. So this is a trinomial. So that's an x squared. So that's easy. That's x and x. The product is, notice the product is a 2 and the sum is product is a 2 and the sum is 3. Okay. So if the product is 2, that means the factors of 2 are 1 and 2. So since the product is positive, I'm going to have 2 pluses or 2 minuses. So because the sum is positive, I'm going to have 2 pluses. Why? Multiply, positive, add, positive. And the factors of 2 are 2 and 1. So we put the 2 and the 1 in and add 2, perfect. So now that I've done this over on the side on a sheet of scrap paper, now I can go back and say, oh yeah, it's factorable. Because if I put that in here and start it, and it's not factorable, then I got to scratch it out. So I work this out over on the side on a sheet of scrap paper, and then when it works, then I put the final answer in. B, do I have a GCF? We got an X, an X, and an X. Yep, X is common. That's a 1, so GCF, since that's a 1 leading term, I don't have to worry about GCF because there's, only if this starts off with a 2 or a 5 or a 7 do I have to worry about taking out that leading coefficient. So 2 is there's no number constant, so I'll take out the X. X cubed divided by X is X squared. Negative 4x squared divided by x is a negative 4x. Notice when you're dividing, 3 subtract 1 is 2. 2 subtract 1 is 1. And negative 12x divided by x is negative 12. Another way to do it is if you multiply these, you add 1 plus 2 is 3. 1 plus 1 is 2. And there's no x here, so x times negative 12x is x. So another way I say it, I have 1x here. I need 2 more to make 3. I have a 1x. I need 1 more to make 2. And I have an x already. I don't need any more with this term because I already have an x. And is this factorable? Well, the product is negative 12 and the sum is negative 4. So the factors of 12 are 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. And if this is going to work, and again on the sheet of scrap paper, you put it on. This is a trinomial, so we know we got an x and an x. And we know that the product is negative 12, so I know I have a plus and a minus. So, since it's a plus and minus, the factors differ. So, what factors of 12 differ by 4? Nope, that's 11. 6 and 2 differ by 4. So 6 and 2 has to go in here to give me a 4, but the 6 is going to be negative and the 2 is going to be positive. Because the sum is a negative 4, the larger factor of the 2 and the 6 will be negative. So it is factorable. It's x plus 2x minus 6. C. Now, You got to make sure it's in descending order also as we do this. As a cube, as a 4, a 3, and an x. So, okay, we're going to, GCF is a 2. 2 is the GCF, numerical GCF. 2 is the leading coefficient, so is 2 a factor of 6 of 4? Yes. We have an x in each term. Yes. So when we have an x in each term, we take out the smallest exponent, which is 1, because the smallest exponent is in the larger ones. So the GCF in this one is a 2x. So 2x to the 4 divided is x cubed. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. And x cubed divided by x is x squared. And 4 divided by 2 is 2. And x, 1 subtract 1 is 0. So notice we do not need any more x's here because we already have one. And that's a cube, a square? Nope. I cannot. This is a trinomial, all right, but that's a cube. This will only factor further, possibly, if that's a 2, because when you multiply x times x, you get an x squared. So this is not factorable any further. Sometimes they are, sometimes they don't. When you take out a GCF, you've got to check to see if it can factor further. Notice, factor each completely. So this is the end result. Here I had to go with a monomial times the 2 binomials. D. Okay, here we go. Do I have descending order? Yes. 2, 1, 0. Constant on the end. Notice this time I have a negative. I should not have a negative in my leading term, because every factoring that we've done so far always had a positive in my leading term. Always a plus number. Because when there's a plus in my leading term, then it works, because it's x times x. Gives you x squared. So because it's negative, I will remove the negative. So a negative divided by negative is a positive. Negative divided by negative is a positive. Positive divided by a negative is a negative. So notice taking the negative out changes plus, plus, minus. So if you think about doing the opposite, then you work backwards. If that's a negative 1 times these 3, then you get what's up there. So when you take out a negative, you change all the signs. Now, the product is negative 6. The sum is 5. Product is negative 6. That's the sum. That's the product. I'll put the product down first. So the factors of 6 are 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. So if this is going to work, let's see if this is going to work. What happens? Let's check the signs. If the product is negative, that means I have a plus and a minus. And because it's x squared, I also have an x and an x at the beginning. So the product is negative, so the factors differ. So to differ by 5, the answer is not the 2 and 3 can't do it because they differ by 1. So this is a 1 and a 6, and the 6 has to be positive. The 1 is negative because the larger factor has to give you the plus 5. So the larger factor is positive. So multiply, negative 6, add, plus 5. So again, I checked it out, and I'm ready to put this final answer in here now, because it factors further. Not all the time it will, so that's why I work over on the side and the sheet of scrap paper. E, do I have descending order? Yes. So we take out, we're okay. We have a 5. So 5 is here. Is 5 a factor of 30 and 40? Yes. And we have a negative, so we take the negative out and we take the 5. So there's GCF, negative 5. Why negative? We do not want the leading term to be negative. Negative 5 divided by negative 5 is x squared. 30 divided by negative 5 is negative 6x. Negative 40 divided by negative 5 is 8. And we're going to check it out. The product is up on top. The product is 8. And the sum is negative 6. So if the product is 8, that's 8 times 1 and 4 times 2 are the factor pairs of 8. So which factors? Let's see. And Just remember now, we're working on a sheet of scrap paper, so I'm just putting it here for now. Let's see, we have x squared is x and x. The product is positive, so we have signs, two signs the same. So they're the same as the middle sign, so there's a negative and a negative. And the factors of 8 that add up, because they're two pluses or two minuses, they add up. So what factors of 8 add up to give me a 6? 8 and 1 gives me a 9, so it's 4 and 2. 4 goes there, 2 goes there, or vice. You can put 2 there, 4 there. Because the signs are the same, it makes no difference. So there's the factorization. F, descending order. Yes, 3, 2, 1. And 4 is here. Is 4 a factor of 32? 4 eighths. 4 a factor of 80? 20. Yes, 4 is the GCF, numerical. And there's an x in each term. We pick the smallest exponent of 1. So 4x cubed divided by 4x is x squared. Negative 32 divided by 4 is negative 8. And we need an x. 2 minus 1 is 1. And 80 divided by 4 is 20, negative 80. And we do not need an x because we already have one. And note, 1 subtract 1 is 0, and x to the 0 is 1, so we do not need an x. And is this factorable further? Well, it's if you were doing it right on the paper, x squared is x and x. And because we have a negative product, this is going to be a plus and a minus. That's the product is negative. So over here, I got a product that's negative 20. And I got a sum of negative 8. So the product, the factors of 20 are always start with the 1. 1 and 20. Even, so 2 and 10. 10 has a 5, so 20 has a 5. So it's 25 times 4. And do we have all the factors? 10 got a 2 and a 5, so there's the 2 and there's the 5. Factors of 20, everything is okay. And because the product is negative 20, that means the factors are plus and minus. That means the factors differ. So what are the factors of 20 that differ by 8? 1 and 20 is a 19. 2 and 10 is the right answer. That differs by 8. But the larger factor is going to be negative. So that's a negative 10 plus 2. Check. Multiply. Negative 20. Add. Negative 8. Perfect. There's the factorization. GCF first. And descending order. So we go with 4x squared plus 8x minus 12. We have to put it in descending order. If we don't, we're not going to be able to factor it correctly. Now, there's x is not common. 4 is the leading, so 4 is a factor of 8 and 12, so we'll take the 4 out as a GCF. 4x squared divided by 4 is x squared. 8x divided by 4 is 2x. Negative 12 divided by 4 is negative 3. And, again, I'm putting it here, but you should check it on a sheet of scrap paper. X squared is x and x. The product is a negative 3, so we guaranteed to have a plus and a minus when we multiply to get the negative product. There's only two factors of 3, so it's either plus 3 minus 1 or plus 1 minus 3. And since we have a product of a negative 3, the sum is 2. Therefore, we have to have a plus 3 minus 1. Add. The larger factor of the 3 and the 1 will be positive. Add the two of these, you get plus 2. Multiply the two of these, you get minus 3. Let's move on to H. We're going to do descending order. So we have a negative 8x to the 4. We have a positive 88x cubed. We have a negative 80x squared. There's the descending order of 4, a 3, and a 2. We have a negative 8. 8 goes into 88 11 times, 8 goes into 80 10 times. So we have to take the negative out, and we can take the 8 out. And the x is common in every term. We take the smallest exponent, which is 2. So there's the GCF. Negative 8x cubed, negative 8x squared, sorry. So we divide, we'll get a 1x squared. Divide again, by, we get a negative 11x. And divide again, and we get a positive 10. Notice 2, 1, 0. That's a 4, 3, 2, and went down by 1. So this is a 2, 1, and none. Notice there's no x here because it's already over here. And if we're going to factor this further, let's see. X squared is x and x. The product is positives, so I'll have two of the signs that are the same. Since the middle sign is a negative, I'll have two negatives. Multiply. Negative and negative is a positive. Add. Negative 11. Factors of 10 to give you 11. 10 is a 1 times 10. 2 times 5. Remember, the product is plus 10. The sum is a negative 11. The product is plus 10. The sum is negative 11. Factors of 10 to give me 11. 5 and 2 will never give me 11. And because they're two signs the same, we got to add up. So it's 10 and 1. Because the two signs are negatives, 10 and 1 can go in either bracket. Okay. Practice. Practice means that you're going to pause the video and work these out. Aid them out to see if you are okay in the factoring. Remember, descending order. Square x number. Perfect. 6 is, x is not a variable common, so is 6 a factor of 36? Yes. And 30? Yes. So we take the 6 out. So we get an x squared. 36 divided by 6 is 6x. 30 divided by 6 is 5. Now, is this factorable further? Well, 5 looks like a 5 will give me a 6, and we got a x and an x. The product is 5, and the sum is 6. There's the product, and there's the sum. What's the factors of 5? 1 and 5. Since the product is a positive 5, that means the factors are going to be 2 pluses or 2 minuses. The middle one says it's going to be 2 pluses. If the product is positive, the signs will be the same as the middle term. And the factors of 5 are 5 and 1. 5 and 1 will add to give me 6. Perfect. Descending order. Cube, square, perfect. That's a 1. There's an x in every term, so we take out the smallest exponent, which is a 1. So the GCF of these three is just an x. So x cubed divided by x is x squared. 3x squared divided by x is 3x. Negative 10x divided by x is just negative 10. Notice 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, and that's a constant on the end with a 0. And it's a trinomial, and x squared is x and x, and the product is negative 10 right there, and the sum is 3. So what are the factors of 10? 1 times 10, 2 times 5. Since the product is a negative 10, that means the signs have to be plus and minus. So that means the factors differ. So what are the factors of 10 that differ by 3? 10 and 1 will give you a 9. No good. So it's 2 and 5 that'll fit in here. But the 5 has to be positive to get the positive 3. So the 5 is the bigger one. The 2 is the smaller one. Multiply. Negative 10. Add. Plus 3. Perfect. Number 3. Is it in descending order? Yes. And let's see. I have a negative. Should remove the negative. Is it 2 a factor of 16 and 24? Yes. Is there an x in every term? Yes. So I take the smaller exponent, which is a 1. I put the 1 there, but I don't have to. Divide. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 is 1, and we get an x squared. 16 divided by negative 2 is negative 8, and 2 to subtract 1 is a 1. Negative 24 divided by negative 2 is a plus 12, and the x's cancel. So I don't need an x here. Notice 3, 2, 1 going down, 2, 1, 0. And Is this trinomial factor? Is it possible to just eyeball it? Can you get the factor of 12 to give you an 8? Yeah, 6 and 2. 12 and 1 is 13. 4 and 3 is a 1. So if you quickly add and subtract, but anyway, let's just make sure. The product is 12, which is right there. The sum is negative 8, which is right there. So the factors of 12 are 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. And let's see, x squared is x and x. If the product is positive, you're going to have two of the same signs. What two? Two minuses because of the middle term, because the sum, these add up to give you negative 8, multiply to give you 12. So what are the factors of 12 that add up to give you 8? That's a 13, nope. That's a 7, nope. So it's 2 and 6. 2 and 6 can go either bracket because of the minuses. Factored completely. Whoop, descending order. So we got to go 3x squared minus 4x minus 21. There's the descending order. 2, 1 constant is always on the right because of this x to the 0. 3 is a factor of 3. 3. Oh, this can't factor. Nope. I can't take the 3 out. So there's can't do it. Can't factor it. So not factorable. Not. I can't take my 3 out, so we cannot factor. By removing the GCF. If 3 could go in, 3 is in 21, but it won't go into 4. So this possible problem will come up later, but I'm not going to entertain it right now. It's possible, but let's say it can't be factored with the GCF, so we can't go any further. Number 5, let's see. We have descending order 5, 4, 3. We have an x in every term, and the lowest, smallest exponent is a 3. So x5 divided by x cubed is x squared, plus a 9x. 9x to the 4 divided by x cubed is 9x. And that's a negative 36. X cubed divided by x cubed is 1. And we got a 1 leading term. So remember, the product is negative 36. The sum is a 9. So the factors of 36, let's see, 1 times 36 is even, so it's 2 times 18. And 18 has a 9, so 4 9s makes 36. And 9 has a 3, so 3 into 36 is a 12. Hopefully I have them all. Let's see if this works. And we have an x and an x because of the x squared. Product is negative, so it's a plus and a minus. Now we're looking for the factors that differ because the signs are different. So what factors of 36 differ by 9? Nope, that's a 35. That's a 16. And that's a 5. So 3 and 12 are the pair. And the 12 has to be positive because the 9 is positive. So if you multiply, you get 36 negative. If you add, you get plus 9. So we got a factor. Number 6. Descending order, 2, 1, 0. Yep. And is 10 a factor of each of these? Well, nope. So again, this one, it can't be done. It can't be done. Unless if I put a 0 here, then we could probably do it. Let's see if we put a 0 here. 10 is a factor. 10 divided by 10 is 1. 120 divided by 10 is 12. 270 divided by 10 is 27. So the product is 27. The sum is 12. So 27 is 1 times 27 and 3 times 9. So putting a 10 there will make it work. But if I didn't put that 0 there on this, you would not be able to factor this right now. You probably can do it later in grade 10, later in the math, but not right now. So by putting a 0 here, I'll get a 27, and we have an x, and the product is positive, so we'll have 2 of the middle signs, 2 pluses. And the factors of 27 to give me a 12 is 3 and 9s. Yes, by putting a 0 here, it's the factor. But if I didn't, we would not be able to factor it right now. Number 7, descending order, negative 5ax squared plus 70ax and minus 65a. Remember, the descending order is in terms of the x. So that's a square, a 1, and a 0. And we have to take the negative out because the leading term should never be negative. I also see an a every term, so I can take that out. And there's a 5 divides into 70 and 65. Yes, so we take a negative a5, or let's write down negative 5a. X is not common. So, sorry, negative 5 is coming out, and the variable a, let's put a negative 5. Put the a after the negative 5. So negative 5ax divided by negative 5a is x squared. 70 divided by negative 5 is a negative 14, and x, because the a's cancel. And negative divided by negative is a positive, and I get a 13. Notice the a comes out of every term, so there's no a's left in here. And x squared is x and x. Because it ends in a plus, I'm going to have 2 of the same signs. What 2? It's going to be 2 of the middle signs, 2 minuses. And the factors of 13 is 13 and 1. The product is 13. And so therefore, I have a 1 times 13. So if it's going to work, it's got to be a 13 and a 1. Add negative 14. Multiply 13. Correct. And 8, descending order, yes, 3, 2, 1. And is a 7 a factor of 49? 7 7s are 49. 7 8s are 56. So 7 is the numerical GCF. We have an x in every term, so we take the smallest exponent, which is a 1. 7x cubed divided by 7x is x squared. 49 divided by 7 is a negative 7, and it's an x. And negative 8. X divided by x is 1. Notice there's no x here. We got a 2, a 1, and a constant. Perfect. And let's factor this. Let's see. X squared is x and x. Ends in a minus, so it's guaranteed to be plus. Product is negative, so it's plus or minus. And what's the factors of 8 to give you a 7? Well, if you think about it, the product is negative 8, so the factors of 8 are 1 and 8, 2 and 4. Remember, the product is on the end, negative 8. The sum is in the middle, negative 7. It's the factors of 8 that will give you the 7. So the factors are going to differ because the signs are different. So 2 and 4 differ by 2. So it's got to be 8 and 1. But the 8 has to be negative, and the 1 has to be positive. Because when you add these, you should get negative 7. Fully done. Again, beware. Sometimes when you take out a GCF and it can factor further. Sometimes when you take out the GCF, what's left cannot factor further. And sometimes we can't factor it at all over the integers, so just be careful. Click on the like button if you liked the video that I did, and the subscribe button if you wish to subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed, and the notification bell, click on that one too if you're a subscriber. Write a video on my comment if you wish, and visit my math website at mathfullyexplained.com, and there you'll have information in 3 different sections. Me, about my degrees and teaching experience. The video section talks about the strategies you're going to use to help you learn your math. Section on content has the topics and the number of videos. The black font is what's online right now on my YouTube channel. The red font is what I'll be developing in the near future. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.